Tonight, after gripping, never-before-seen footage of the Capitol Hill insurrection,
you can see Vice President Pence and his family quickly move down the stairs.
The House managers' final day as they conclude their case to impeach former President Trump. Plus, new unemployment numbers and a look at the American economy. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Making the case, the president knew what was coming. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And good evening. I'm John Jessup. For a second straight day, House impeachment managers have been building their case against former President Trump, attempting to hold him directly accountable for the deadly Capitol Hill riot last month. Their arguments today come even as some senators still feel raw over the shocking security videos that showed just how close they came to unthinkable danger that day.
Tonight, the prosecution is wrapping up their arguments, trying to place blame for that dangerous and what turned into a deadly day on the president. Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson is following the trial and begins our coverage tonight. Abigail, what did the House managers focus on today?
Well, Jenna, today the House impeachment managers wrapped their case that President Trump knowingly primed his supporters for months ahead of January 6th to reject a peaceful transfer of power, that President Trump did nothing to stop the attack on the Capitol as it was ongoing, and that since the Capitol attack, he has shown no remorse. They argued that all of this violates his oath of office and that he should be barred from ever running for federal office again.
January 6th was not some unexpected radical break from his normal law-abiding and peaceful disposition. This was his state of mind. This was his essential MO. He knew that, egged on by his tweets, his lies, and his promise of a wild time in Washington to guarantee his grip on power, his most extreme followers would show up bright and early, ready to attack, ready to engage in violence, ready to fight like hell for their hero.
They also argued that President Trump's defense is legally flawed because there is no First Amendment protection for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Abigail, let's talk about the former Vice President Mike Pence. We haven't heard from him in all of this since the trial began, but he has been a focus of the prosecution.
That's right, Jenna. Yesterday, we learned that Vice President Mike Pence and his family were actually inside the Capitol for the entirety of the siege. And we learned that at one point, protesters who were heard chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," came within 60 feet of the vice president and his family.
The mob, as you have heard, chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." Hang Mike Pence! Hang Mike Pence! Hang Mike Pence! Hang Mike Pence! The charging documents show that the rioters said they would have killed Vice President Pence and Speaker Pelosi had they found them. Dawn Bancroft and Diane Santos Smith, two of the rioters charged in the attack, were caught on tape discussing the brutal violence that they hoped to inflict on Speaker Pelosi had she not been rushed out to safety. They said, quote, "We broke into the Capitol. We got inside. We did our part. And we were looking for Nancy to shoot her in the frigging brain, but we didn't find her." End quote. Senators, simply put, this mob was trying to overthrow our government.
Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville spoke to reporters last night after a phone call was brought up yesterday during the argument, claiming that President Trump had called Senator Tuberville, and Senator Tuberville confirmed that he spoke to the president on the Senate floor sometime between 2 p.m. and 2:15 p.m. and let the president know that the vice president was being evacuated from the Senate chamber. And the House impeachment managers have argued that President Trump knew that this was during the attack was happening, that he knew that lawmakers and his own vice president were in danger. And at 2:24 p.m., President Trump tweeted, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution." And they argued that that only fueled the fire for those angry at the vice president and looking to find him inside the Capitol.
Yeah, that timeline getting a lot of attention tonight. All right, Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson, thank you very much.
And joining us now is Senator Rand Paul from the state of Kentucky. Senator Paul, we're winding down on the first full week of the Senate impeachment trial. A lot of reporting suggests the impeachment managers have presented an effective case, a point reiterated even by a few of your Republican colleagues. Your response, Senator Paul, to their presentation so far, notwithstanding your objections based on the question of constitutionality?
You know, I think the case that the violence that happened on January 6th was abhorrent and that the people who committed it should be punished. Sure, they've done a good job of that, but they've also admitted that the president's words did not incite the crowd. Interestingly, one of the House managers, Cicilline, on the first day of the trial, he stood up and said, the president's words are not why we're convicting him or impeaching him. They said it because he promoted this big lie that the election was stolen. But interestingly, the lead House manager stood up in 2017 and said Trump stole the election, and he voted not to seat the electors from Florida. So, you know, hypocrisy and this idea of a double standard just doesn't look well. I don't think this is good for the country. It's in no way unifying, and I think it just furthers the bitterness and rancor of the election. So I think this is a huge mistake by the Democrats. Talking about words matter, you highlighted the fact that Democrats also used the word fight in the past, and as you just mentioned, Congressman Raskin challenged the certification of President Trump's electoral win in 2016. You're getting some pushback, of course, from the media. In your mind, why do you believe these are the same? Well, the thing is you have to look at the actual words. What did the president say? He said, go fight that your voices be heard. And he said, march peacefully and patriotically. How can you twist that into words that incite violence? But I can give you Chuck Schumer's words when he stood in front of a mob in front of the Supreme Court, and he said, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, you've unleashed the whirlwind, and you will pay the price, and you won't know what hit you if you don't quit these awful decisions. That sounds very physical. It sounds intimidating. And there's actually no way you can fight or hit back to the Supreme Court other than physical, because we don't elect them. Once they're appointed, they're there for life. So what were his words intending? But immediately after Schumer spoke those words, the mob charged the door of the Supreme Court and tried to tear it down. They stood on top of statues. They were confronting and belligerent. They threw stuff at the Supreme Court justices' cars, all after Schumer spoke. So if we're going to judge political speech on the actual words, let's use one standard. And I think Democrats would find, if they look in the mirror, they've been guilty of much more than they're accusing Trump of. Senator Paul, Bloomberg is reporting that Leader McConnell told your conference to vote your conscience and that he might be undecided on conviction or acquittal. What's your read of the room? All we need is 34 to acquit. So I think they're nowhere close convincing anybody. And in fact, I think we could get back the one we lost even maybe in the end. So there'll be 44, 45 people to acquit. It'll be a largely partisan exercise. It will have destroyed any possible unifying concept that President Biden may have wished for, but it was his own doing. He could have easily been a statesman and moved forward. His numbers from independents would have gone up 20 points if he had said this isn't the right thing to do. We need to let this be part of our past. It is a high threshold to have the 67 votes, which likely will not happen. So, Senator Paul, where does the Republican Party go from here? Should President Trump be the leader of the Republican Party? You know, when I first ran for office, I said that political parties are an empty vessel unless you imbue them with values. So political parties always are the people who are running for office and trying to decide what the party is. I'm a Republican because I believe in limited government, the Constitution. I believe in the right to life. I believe that the best economy that helps the most people who are in need is capitalism, low taxes, limited regulation. And that's what I think of the Republican Party. And many times President Trump was on the right side of those issues, and sometimes he wasn't. So I supported him when I thought he was right, and I opposed him when he was wrong. I opposed him on not certifying the electors. I did vote to certify the electors, even though I do think fraud occurred in the election and needs to be addressed. I opposed some of his emergency powers on moving money around that Congress hadn't given him. I opposed selling weapons to Saudi Arabia because I didn't like the war in Yemen. But I also supported the fact that he appointed conservative pro-life judges to the court. And I supported him overall in the sense that reducing taxes and regulation were good for the economy. On spending, I thought he spent too much money, and I thought it was crazy to give free money of $2,000 to everybody, and I opposed that. So really, I've been who I've always been, and I'm a part of the Republican Party. I'm not the Republican Party, but I think we should be a conservative party of balanced budgets. And that's actually a minority position within the caucus, but that's who I am and who I'll always be.
I want to hone in on the part of money and spending, switching gears here a little bit. The President Biden, is pushing a nearly $2 trillion COVID relief plan. What do you make of the high cost of the plan?
Well, we don't have any money. We have no rainy day account, no savings account. We have a printing press. We have the Federal Reserve, so we can print up money. But, you know, if they want to give $2,000 once, why not $2,000 a month? And some on the left, the socialists, say, yes, that's what we want. We want to do $2,000 a month. But it's like, really? Are there no ramifications to borrowing so much money? We borrowed $4 trillion already to try to rescue an economy that was largely shut down by government edict. So I think the choices are not more money versus less money. I think the choices are open the economy or not opening the economy. And so I advocate helping restaurants by getting rid of the edicts, helping movie theaters, bowling alleys, et cetera, by getting rid of the edicts and letting local communities and businesses make the decisions on what type of risks they're willing to take and what type of precautions they'd like to take.
I want to give you an opportunity here to plug the 3-penny plan Balanced Budget Act. What would that do?
Well, for years, Republicans have said they're for a balanced budget. A few years ago, Mike Lee and I and others put forward a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, and every Republican voted for it, but it balanced in 5 years. So I think the gold standard for a serious balanced budget has to balance in 5 years. So a few years ago, I had a budget freeze, and it balanced in 5 years. But then they kept spending, both Republicans and Democrats. So then we introduced the penny plan, where we'd cut 1% from last year's budget, and we do that each year for 5 years, and it would balance. Then it became the 2-penny plan, and then this year it's the 3-penny plan. And the reason it becomes harder to balance the budget is because Republicans and Democrats continue to blow through limits and add money that we don't have. But now my budget that I introduced, I got 29 Republicans to vote for it, 21 against, and no Democrats for it, would cut 3% each year for 5 years, but it would balance. And then we would become a strong nation again and begin running surpluses after 5 years. I think we then could fix our roads and bridges and take care of our people. And in order to do that, you have to quit sending your money overseas. So I'm against foreign aid for foreign countries. I'm against welfare for foreign countries. I forced that vote recently, though, and only got 8 Republicans to support me, or 7 other, 8 of us total. So I think if you ask the people, do you want to keep spending money overseas, or would you rather balance our budget and fix our roads? I think the people are with me, but we don't have enough votes yet here in Washington. So frankly, some of them need to go home, Republican and Democrat.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you.
Coming up, American unemployment and COVID. Some slight improvements, but is it enough to make a difference?
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary, or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No Super Falls, man. Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry. Excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
American unemployment and COVID-19, the latest numbers showing a slight decrease, but they're still historically high because of the pandemic and its strain on the economy. The Labor Department reports last week 793,000 Americans applied for unemployment benefits. That number down 19,000 from the week before. The total number of people receiving some sort of unemployment is still more than 20 million. And joining us now, Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, good to see you this evening. How do you read these latest unemployment numbers?
Well, they're still, Jenna, worse than what we saw during the financial crisis and Great Recession. And so while I think there's plenty of reason for optimism about the way the pandemic may look, let's say, in the coming months, and the economy will improve, I think, consistent with that, we're still very much in the midst of this winter with respect to both the economy and the pandemic.
Yesterday, Mark, the Fed warned about high unemployment. Today, we learned this year's total government debt will exceed the size of the economy, a prediction that doesn't even include President Biden's nearly $2 trillion stimulus. Mark, is that the final nail in the coffin when it comes to bipartisan talks?
I don't think so. I think that, there is no reason why members of Congress need to put party above country. And I think that is the instinct that, at least to a large part, that President Biden is trying to appeal to. The reality is that we still need some help to get through this difficult phase of the economic recovery. If you look at these latest unemployment claims numbers, as you mentioned, still 20 million Americans on some form of unemployment assistance, and most of those are through the pandemic programs or some form of extended benefits. So we need to get beyond March, when the current round of extensions will essentially expire, and then look to perhaps a better economy in the summer and fall, and then we can have an assessment about what to do. By the way, and Senator Paul sort of referenced this, there's no reason why our elected officials in Washington can't look to make up for the money that they're spending by trying to cut other parts of the budget. And, that has fallen by the wayside on the part of both parties in recent years.
Mark, Bankrate's monthly financial security poll found over half of Americans, 54%, have more money in their emergency savings than in credit card debt. Originally, I thought I read that wrong. How does that compare to the past?
Well, we're actually seeing some improvement there, Jenna, and that might be counterintuitive, which is why your wise instincts led you in that direction. So I think perhaps that's surprising. But here's the other part of that, Jenna. As we've talked about in the past, fewer than half of Americans, fewer than 4 in 10, as a matter of fact, can pay an emergency expense of $1,000 or more from their savings. And so while we are making some progress on just having that emergency savings, let's say where the credit card debt is less than the savings itself, we need to continue to work in this direction, because when we're living paycheck to paycheck, and for some, we had those paychecks come to an end, we saw the consequence of that. We need to have a social safety net for ourselves, first of all.
All right. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate, we always appreciate your time, and we will be back with more Faith Nation right after this.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path. Nigerian Christians are
Christians in Iran are routinely arrested.
Nepali Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back. Returning to our top story tonight, throughout the impeachment trial, the House managers have used tweets and video clips to lay out a detailed timeline dating back to even before the events of January 6th. Many senators, even Republicans, say it's a compelling argument.
I'm angry, I'm disturbed, I'm sad. As you say, we're reliving this. We lived it once, and that was awful. And we're now reliving it with a more comprehensive timeline. I know what I was feeling in the Senate chamber when I could hear those voices. I knew what it meant to be running down this hallway with my colleagues. I wasn't fully aware of everything else that was happening in the building.
And with us now, ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, welcome back to Faith Nation. Republican Senator from Alaska, Lisa Murkowski, described the trial evidence as damning and that she doesn't think Donald Trump could be reelected again. 2024, as you know, is a while away. Rick, do you agree, or is it possible to resuscitate Donald Trump's political career?
I don't think it's a political impossibility, maybe an improbability. I think there is a cloud over his political future that was cast by the events of January 6th and, frankly, the events leading up to January 6th, maybe even since January 6th. But the fact is that he is enormously popular among a whole host of Republicans across geographic areas, across income levels. He is the most popular and perhaps most polarizing figure in the Republican Party. If he were to run again in 2024, there's no doubt in my mind that he'd be an early polling frontrunner. There'd be many Republicans who are kind of sick of it and ready to move on, and parties tend to nominate people who are about the future. But Trump and Trumpism remain very strong.
You wrote that this is the ultimately loyalty test. Rick, how do Republican senators benefit from choosing not to break ranks with the former president?
Yeah, to me, it's a fascinating question because in another political era with a different political figure, this might represent a grand opportunity for the party to move on. If you convict a former president for the first time ever, you're marking a clean break. But that's not how most Republican senators are viewing this. They're viewing this on one level as a bad precedent. They don't think it's even constitutional to have a trial for a former president. But on another level, they're falling back on a defense that basically says, look, what he did was terrible, was horrible. What the protesters did was way worse, but connecting the two is not appropriate. Laying the blame for the riot at his feet and blaming him and then therefore convicting him for the first time ever of an impeachment is not appropriate. It's a tough thing for a lot of Republicans to square, but I think the immediate political blowback of breaking with the president remains a far more difficult and dangerous road than if you were to keep your sort of loyalty to President Trump. That's where the voters in the Republican Party are for the most part. That's the Republican voters that sent those Republican senators to the Senate, and that tends to be what governs activity, is that sense of where your voters are.
You hinted at the high hurdle there for Democrats to reach the 67 threshold to convict the president. We talked to Senator Rand Paul earlier, and he said that he thinks that they won't even get close, that they may even win back the one vote that they lost earlier this week. Is censuring the former president still on the table then?
Yeah, I think it's a fallback option. I think what will happen is there'll be a final vote, and if it falls short of the 67, which as Senator Paul suggests is most likely to happen, there will be discussion about what else to do, because there will be Republicans as well as Democrats who feel like the final word from the Senate should not be vindication of former President Trump. They need to go on the record with a censure. And that would be, under the more normal Senate procedures, that would only require 60 Senate votes. So I think looking at that final vote will be important, and it's possible that talk of a censure is kind of a backup option.
Finally, Rick, we know that this is a historic event. Is there one moment from the trial that stood out to you the most?
I was stunned to see that surveillance video yesterday of how close protesters came, the rioters came to getting to Mike Pence, to Mitt Romney, to Chuck Schumer, to Republican leaders as well as Democrats, frankly. And they were out for blood. You know, so much of what we saw a month or so ago, John, was about what happened outside the Capitol. Those were the images that were indelible and marked in our brains. But what happened inside was so much worse. And now we know it could have been immeasurably, incalculably worse than that even. So to me, that surveillance video, just the pure terror on the faces of members of Congress and the vice president as they were running for cover, saved by heroes of the Capitol Police, those are moments that aren't going to fade from my memory.
Many heroes indeed that day. Rick Klein, we always appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
And finally tonight, when it snows, some build a snowman, some hit the slopes, others throw on snowshoes.
Yeah, that's what a group of 11 people in Finland did, and they weren't trekking anywhere, though. Instead, they were creating this amazing snow art. A Finnish artist came up with a design. It's made up of thousands of steps on a snow-covered golf course. It took 2 days for volunteers to create that beautiful pattern. Looks like a snowflake, one big snowflake. I love it.
Beautiful. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night.